Imagine trying to build a small version of Earth, a world under glass, with its own forests, ocean, farms and air. Now imagine living inside that world for 2 years, without outside oxygen, without fresh food deliveries, and without opening the door. This wasn't science fiction, it was a real experiment called Biosphere 2. And what happened inside it tells us a lot about whatever humans could ever live on Mars. Biosphere 2 is a massive sealed research facility built in the Arizona desert. The name comes from the idea that Earth itself is Biosphere 1. Biosphere 2 was meant to be a second artificial world. Inside the structure, scientists built several miniature ecosystems. There was a rainforest, a desert, a small ocean with coral reefs, a savanna, and a farming area where people could grow food. The goal was simple in theory: create a closed system where humans could survive using only what was inside. No outside air, no outside food, no outside water. Just like what future astronauts might face on Mars. In 1991, 8 people entered Biosphere 2. They agreed to live inside for 2 full years. Everything they needed had to come from the environment around them. They grew crops, they recycled water, they depended on plants to produce oxygen. At first, the experiment felt hopeful. The crew was motivated, they were excited to be pioneers of a new kind of living. But very quickly, reality began to set in. Growing enough food turned out to be much harder than expected. Some crops failed, insects spread faster than planned, the balance of the ecosystem was fragile. Living in a closed world started to feel less like science fiction and more like survival. One of the biggest surprises was oxygen. Slowly, over time, oxygen levels inside Biosphere 2 began to drop. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough that people began to feel weak, tired and dizzy. Some crew members developed symptoms similar to altitude sickness. Climbing stairs became difficult, concentration became harder. Eventually the situation became serious enough that oxygen had to be added from outside. This broke the idea of a perfectly closed system. The experiment showed that managing air in a sealed world is incredibly complex. Soil, microbes, plants and even building materials can absorb or release gases in unexpected ways. This is a major lesson for Mars. You can't just seal people in a habitat and expect nature to balance itself. Food was another major problem. The crew worked long hours farming, but the yields were lower than planned. People lost weight, they were often hungry. At the same time, some species exploded in number. Certain insects thrived in the closest environment, others disappeared completely. This showed how hard it is to control ecosystems. Nature doesn't follow human plans. Small changes can cause big chain reactions. On Mars there will be no room for ecological chaos. Food systems will have to be carefully engineered, controlled and backed up by technology. One of the most important lessons from Biosphere 2 had nothing to do with plants or oxygen. It was psychology. Living in isolation for long periods caused stress. Conflicts formed between crew members. Small disagreements became bigger over time. The closed environment amplified emotions. There was no escape from each other, no private space from mission itself. This is extremely relevant for space travel. A Mars mission would involve years of isolation and distance from Earth. Technology can keep people alive, but mental health can decide whether a mission is succeed or fails. Biosphere 2 proved that creating a self-sustaining mini-Earth is far harder than expected. For Mars, this means we can't rely on natural balance alone. Life support will need active control systems. Oxygen, water and food must be constantly monitored and adjusted. Future habitats on Mars will likely look less like living ecosystems and more like carefully managed machines that supports life. Biosphere 2 also taught that you need backups for oxygen production, backups for food, backups for water purification. And perhaps most importantly, it taught us that Earth is an incredibly complex life support system. Recreating even a small piece of it is unbelievably difficult. Today, Biosphere 2 is used as a scientific research facility. Scientists study climate change, ecosystems and how environments respond to stress. The original dream of a sealed human habitat may not have worked as planned, but the lessons learned continue to shape how we think about living beyond Earth. Biosphere 2 didn't prove that humans are ready to live on Mars. It proved how unprepared we still are. But it also showed what we need to learn, how fragile ecosystems are, how complex life support systems must be, and how important the human mind is in extreme environments. In trying to build a second Earth, we learned just how special the first one really is.